The soul speaks in the silence of dawn, but not everyone has ears to hear. If you are here, it's because you feel. Something pulses in your chest, and no matter how much you try to move on, there is a presence that never leaves you. Maybe you wake up in the middle of the night with his name on your mind. Maybe you dream of him, feel chills for no reason, see repeated numbers, or feel a void that no one else can fill. This is not just longing. This is not just memory. This is connection. This message is for you, who has been trying to understand the invisible. For you, who feels deep within your being that he is calling you, even from afar. For you, who wants answers. You are not crazy. You are awakening. If you feel that this message is for you, stay here until the end. Because today we will talk about the nighttime signs that your twin flame sends and that you may be ignoring. We will cross the veil of the rational and touch what only the soul understands. Get ready to remember who you are and who you are together. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss anything, and share this video with someone who also feels they are being called back to their origin. Today we will decipher what lies behind dreams, chills, and synchronicities. Today you will understand why he appears to you every night, even if you deny it during the day. Have you ever wondered why certain nights feel denser than others? Why, just when the world quiets down, the heart seems to scream? There is a moment, there between sleep and awakening, when the soul detaches from the body and travels to dimensions that the conscious mind cannot decipher. And it is in this subtle, almost invisible space that many meetings happen. Meetings that are not physical, but leave real marks. You feel it, don't you? Maybe you are going through a moment of separation. That distance that is not just physical, but energetic. An absence that hurts more than any word could express. And in this emptiness, where everything seems suspended, you begin to notice strange things. You wake up at the exact same time every night. You have vivid dreams. You feel his name echoing inside you for no reason. Or you notice signs that insist on repeating. Songs, dates, numbers, phrases that seem to be made just for you. And then you ask yourself, am I the one who is crazy? Am I creating all of this in my head? The answer you may need to hear right now is no. You are not imagining. You are feeling something that goes beyond logic. You are crossing a spiritual call, a call that comes from his soul to yours. Because when it comes to twin flames, distance doesn't matter, silence doesn't matter, time doesn't matter. The connection remains alive in a dimension that challenges any rational explanation. But it's hard. Because you feel his presence, but he doesn't show up. You notice the signs, but don't receive answers. You feel that something is happening on the other side, but all you receive here is absence. And this ambiguity hurts. It hurts a lot. How can you continue to believe in something that you cannot see? How can you sustain a connection that doesn't manifest? How do you explain to others, or even to yourself, that there is someone who touches you without touching, who calls you without saying a word, who loves you but hides? It is at this point that many souls enter into deep conflict, because there is a part of you that wants to give up, that wants to forget, that wants to bury everything and move on. But there is another part that simply knows, that feels, even without understanding, that recognizes signs that seem to have been sent exclusively for you. And it is precisely here that the soul begins to awaken. Because the love between twin flames is not a common love. It doesn't come to comfort. It comes to transform. It turns you inside out. It forces you to look at everything that has been hidden, denied, forgotten. It ignites old wounds, but it also reveals dormant potentials. And before it unites two bodies, it first needs to awaken two consciousnesses. That's why, when he pulls away, the universe begins to move differently. Not to punish you, but to open your eyes. That's why the nighttime signs intensify, because it is at night that the rational mind calms down, and it is at night that his soul finds gaps to communicate with you, in dreams, in chills, in sudden intuitions. in tears that fall for no reason, in the silent dialogues that happen when you think of him before sleeping. The truth is that there is so much more happening than you can see. And even if he has gone silent in the physical world, there is a part of him that continues to scream for you in other dimensions. The question is, are you ready to hear? Because the signs are there. They have always been. But only those who are awake are able to recognize them. And maybe, just maybe, that's why you are here now. It is when the night falls silent that the universe begins to speak. Not in noise, not in screams, but in the invisible whisper that only an attentive heart can perceive. And you feel it. Because even without explanation, there is an unrest in your chest that doesn't disappear. The soul stirs. Sleep becomes a battleground of internal struggles. And that presence, his, remains there even when everything seems to have ended. But what in fact has ended? Is the end real when the bond remains alive? When, even in the cruelest silence, there is a constant vibration that crosses dimensions and touches the deepest part of your essence? The separation between twin flames is not a mistake. It is a process, a sacred path, although painful. The distance that now hurts you is, many times, the only way the universe finds for both to awaken. And in this detachment, the deepest conflicts arise, those that can no longer be ignored. Because he didn't just leave your life, he left so that you could find yourself. This is where everything becomes confusing. The mind starts to create narratives. He doesn't want me. I made it all up. It was just another illusion. The ego, accustomed to controlling, tries to make sense of what cannot be explained. And in this effort, you get tired. You want to give up. You start to think that it was all just a delusion of need, that look, that touch, that intense energy you shared, maybe it was just in your head. But there is a part of you that does not accept this explanation, because the truth does not dissolve so easily, because what you experienced, even if it was brief, left an eternal mark. And it is this mark that continues to pulse, even when everything around seems to deny the connection. And then the signs come. He appears in your dreams. He shows up in the most random moments. You smell his perfume, hear his voice, remember a specific phrase, and everything comes rushing back with absurd force. You try to escape, but the soul pulls you back. You try to deny it, but the body reacts. You try to forget, but the universe conspires to remind you. Why does this happen? Because the connection between twin flames is not limited to the physical. It is energetic, spiritual, ancestral. It's as if an invisible field is always activated between you, and any movement from one reverberates in the other, even if he says nothing, even if he is far away, even if, apparently, he has moved on. When the connection is real, it does not depend on external proof. It manifests in vibrations, in intuitions, in resonances that cannot be measured. And the most surprising, or painful, part is that often his soul is trying to reach you, even when his mind is still in denial. That's why, during the night, the signs intensify, because it is in that interval between worlds that his soul gains the freedom to express itself. He may not be aware of it, but energetically, he seeks you. He feels you. He calls you. But why then does he pull away? Why, if he feels all this, doesn't he come back? Because the connection is so intense that for those who are not ready, it is frightening. It reveals shadows. It forces change. And many are not ready to look at themselves with such depth, so they run away. They deny. They seek easier relationships, distractions, anesthetics. But no matter how much they try to hide, the bond remains, and the universe observes. It hears what is behind the "it's over." Because in energetic language, the end is rarely a final period. It is a necessary pause for healing to occur. And while you suffer, asking why you were left, why he doesn't respond, why you feel so much without any reciprocation, there is a silent process happening behind the scenes. A movement that cannot be rushed. A reorganization that goes far beyond what the eyes can see. It is at this time that many lose faith, because they expect spiritual love to behave like earthly love. They expect messages, meetings, concrete proof, but soul love has its own rhythm. It needs space to mature. It requires you to surrender, even without any guarantees. And it is in this surrender that true transformation begins. You start to realize that the pain of absence is not just about the other. It is about everything you projected, everything you expected him to be, everything you hoped he would heal in you. The separation reveals how much is still lacking within you, how much you still depend on something outside to feel whole. And at the same time, it shows how capable you are of reconnecting with something infinitely greater, because the signs he sends you at night are not just from him, they are invitations. Invitations from the universe for you to awaken, to look beyond the veil of longing, to remember that before being half, you are whole, and that this entire journey, no matter how painful it is leading you back home. The home that is not a place, it is a state of being, a reunion with your own light. And when this happens, the connection stops being a prison. It becomes a portal. There comes a moment on the soul's path when the pain no longer screams as it once did. It doesn't disappear, but changes tone. It stops being that desperation that begs for answers and transforms into a silent presence that teaches. It is the beginning of the turnaround, the start of healing. Not because everything has been resolved, but because, in some way, you begin to understand that there is a greater wisdom behind everything that has happened to you. And it is at this point that the soul learns the value of surrender. Not the surrender that gives up, that conforms, that settles, but the surrender that trusts, that understands that forcing a connection, chasing after it, demanding answers or proof of love only generates more pain and disorder. That true love is not won through insistence, but through vibration, and that there is nothing more magnetic than a soul at peace with itself. Healing does not begin when he returns. Healing begins when you stop chasing what is not ready to happen. When you start to look within and ask, what did this separation come to teach me? What within me still needs to be loved, embraced, seen? What am I expecting the other to bring me, but that in reality, I can offer myself? The answer lies in silence, in withdrawal, in those nights when, even missing him, you choose to take care of yourself. When you cry, but do not abandon yourself. When you feel the emptiness, but do not try to fill it with distractions. When you understand that the love you feel for him is true, but that it cannot be greater than the love you need to have for yourself. Because the reunion with him, if it is meant to happen, will only be possible after the reunion with yourself. That is how the universe works. It does not return the other to your life while you are still fragmented, dependent, unbalanced. Because in that state, you wouldn't be able to sustain the energy of that connection. It would hurt you again. That's why his silence, as cruel as it may seem, is sacred. Because it is in this space of absence that you are led to confront everything you still need to heal. It is in the silence that you hear your own needs, your insecurities, your hidden desires. And it is also in the silence that you begin to remember your strength. This phase of withdrawal is like a spiritual winter. Everything seems dormant. Hope wilts. The soul withdraws. But it is in this cycle that the roots grow. It is in this time of solitude that you create internal structure, that you begin to realize that you are not alone, that the universe is with you, that the signs continue to come, but now, not as triggers of pain, but as reminders that something greater is being prepared. You begin to realize that you can be happy even without him by your side, that you can smile, grow, live deep experiences, not because you have forgotten him, but because you are learning to live lightly. You stop trying to interpret every move he makes. You stop seeking explanations. And instead, you begin to build something solid within yourself. This is the beginning of true awakening. An awakening that does not depend on the other, that does not depend on messages, on responses, on validations. but that arises from your decision to honor yourself, to respect yourself, to listen to yourself. It is at this stage that healing deepens, and with it comes a new kind of love, conscious love. Conscious love does not idealize. It does not need the other to be perfect, present, or constant. It recognizes that the other has their own path, their own time, their own challenges, and even so, it chooses to love without demands, without expectations, without attachment, to love in freedom. And it is in this love that the connection between twin flames elevates, because it ceases to be an emotional prison and transforms into a spiritual bridge, a channel of transformation, a field of healing. It is at this point that you realize that love has not ended. It has simply changed form, and that perhaps the purpose was not the physical reunion, at least not now. Perhaps the purpose was to make you remember who you are, everything you carry, everything that needs to be awakened. You begin to be thankful for the separation, for the pain, for the signs that came to show you what was dormant inside you. And even though there is still longing, it no longer sinks you, because now you walk with your feet on the ground and your heart open. Because now you understand that the most important reunion has already happened, the reunion with your own soul. And this reunion changes everything, because from it, you stop waiting and start receiving. You stop searching and start attracting. You stop depending and start emanating. And when your energy changes, everything around you begins to change as well, including him. There is a moment, almost imperceptible, when the soul stops seeking outside what has always been inside. It is not a rational decision. It is not a motivational phrase that suddenly changes everything. It is a subtle yet powerful shift, a moment when something within you awakens and says, enough, not with anger, not with sadness, but with a serenity that only arises when the pain has fulfilled its mission. And in that moment, you do not stop loving. You simply stop begging for love. You stop kneeling before the absence of the other and begin to rise before your own presence. This is the encounter with the higher self, that part of you that has always been there, but was hidden under layers of fear, insecurity, and need. The higher self does not need to prove anything to anyone. It does not despair at silence, for it knows that silence speaks too. It does not drown in absence, because it has learned to overflow on its own. It does not need to chase anyone, for it understands that everything that is yours remains, and what goes away also teaches. It is in this frequency that true transformation happens. You no longer identify with the version of yourself that waited for a message, that looked at the phone with a tight heart, that tried to interpret every sign as a promise of return. You still love, but love has ceased to be a burden. It has become light. It has become yours. And then, something changes in your energy. And it is not fantasy. It is not self-deception. It is real. Your vibrational field recalibrates. You become magnetic. Not because of looks or words, but because there is an integrity in you that begins to radiate, a wholeness that attracts everything that vibrates at the same frequency. People begin to see you differently. Situations start to flow. What once seemed stuck begins to move, and you realize the universe is responding to your transformation. This is true personal power. Not that arrogant power that wants to control everything, that demands proof of worth, that seeks external achievements to validate itself, but the silent power that arises from authenticity, that flourishes when you decide to be who you are with courage and wholeness, when you understand that you no longer need to fit in, to diminish yourself, or to adjust to be loved. You simply are, and that is enough. In this state, you no longer wait for him to return to feel peace. You are the peace. You no longer wait for him to see you to feel sufficient. You see yourself. You no longer wait for him to say that he loves you, because you have already understood that love never stopped existing. It just needed to change places, and that place is now you. And the most curious thing is that when you align with this truth, his soul feels it, even if he is far away, even if he is denying it, even if he is distracted in other directions, because the connection between you is energetic. And when one soul returns to itself, the other feels that call on profound levels. He may not understand, but something within him begins to move. It begins to stir. It begins to remember. And that's why many reunions between twin flames happen just when you are no longer waiting. Not because you've given up, but because you've found yourself again. And this reunion with yourself is the key that opens any door. It doesn't guarantee that he will come back, but it guarantees that you are ready for whatever is best for your soul, with him or without him. You no longer accept less than you deserve. You no longer negotiate your peace for crumbs of attention. You no longer romanticize absence, because now you recognize your worth. You respect your time. You honor your journey. And by doing this, you become an example. You become a beacon. You become a channel of healing for other souls. The love between twin flames is a harsh master, but deeply transformative. It destroys you so that you can rebuild yourself. It takes away your ground so that you learn to fly. It pushes you to the limit so that you discover that your power is not in the other, but in who you choose to be in the absence of the other. And when you access this place of strength, maturity, and awareness, everything changes. You understand that true love does not imprison, it liberates. That true connection does not happen outside, it starts within. And that the true purpose of this connection was never just about romance. It was about awakening. It was about aligning souls to the highest purpose. It was about remembering who you are, together, yes, but primarily whole. And when you walk in this new state, something miraculous begins to happen. Life aligns, the answers come, the synchronicities continue, but now with more clarity. The signs cease to be anguish and become confirmation. You realize that you are exactly where you should be, and that everything you've lived, the pain, the emptiness, the waiting, was, in fact, an initiation, a call to return to the center, to the home within yourself. Because the love between twin flames may seem to be about the other, but in the end, it has always been about you, about your expansion, about your reunion with the divine within yourself. And when this remembrance settles in your soul, no absence dominates you anymore. No doubt paralyzes you. No farewell destroys you. You have become who you came here to be, and that is the greatest gift of all. Perhaps you have come this far seeking to understand why he keeps appearing in your dreams, why you feel his presence at night, even when everything seems to be over. But along this journey, perhaps you have realized that the most important question was not about him. It was about you, about what this connection came to awaken, about who you are becoming in light of all this. It is not easy to love someone in silence. It is not simple to feel, day after day, such a deep connection that is at the same time invisible to the eyes. But you continue, you feel, you listen, because there is something within you that has never stopped knowing. And now, perhaps more than ever, you understand. It is not just about a human love, but a spiritual calling. A call for you to return home within yourself. A call for you to recognize your light, your strength, your wisdom. If something within you was touched by these words, if you felt seen, welcomed, remembered, then this message was indeed for you. And perhaps it's time to stop waiting for answers outside and start trusting the truth that your soul already knows. If this content helped you in any way, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, to leave your like, and to share with those who also need to hear this message. And I want to invite you to leave in the comments. Do you feel that he visits you at night? What was the strongest sign you have ever received? Your story can touch other souls on their journey. And remember, true love does not disappear. It transforms into what the soul needs to blossom. You are not alone. You are in process. And the universe keeps whispering, trust.